brink of change, but there's a roadblock. There's a roadblock just right smack in the middle of our way, and we just cannot seem to maneuver around it. You've put efforts into reconfiguring your routine. You have mastered all of these new habits. Your consistency is through the roof. And on top of all that, you have obtained true discipline. But it's not enough. And something is holding you back. There's one element that you did not consider. And the thing about this one element is that if we do not put enough focus on it and handle it at the beginning, you will always find yourself a beat behind where you could be. I am talking about healing, babe. The consistency, the discipline, the new habits, the can-do attitude. None of it will matter if you have not properly healed. Now, obviously, there are so many areas that we could have some healing in, let's be honest. But today, I want to talk about healing from being that broken little girl so that we can become that fierce woman that we have yearned and desired to be. What is up, my loves? Welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, if you have been here, we're changing it up a little bit today. Normally I sit in front of my bed, but I have just not been liking my lighting. My lighting has been just bleh. I don't have very good natural light in my house. I'm like, you know what? I used to film in this corner. Let me try it again and see how it works out. But anyway, as always, if you guys want to see more style content, the beauty, the glam, all of the cutesy stuff, you can go on over to my short form platforms, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok, because you know, here on YouTube, we're keeping it all about the conversation. So let's get into the ugliness that is within the broken little girl. We really start to recognize that broken little girl inside of us when we are on our quest, like fully in our quest to changing our lives. And honestly, that's because this is the point where you get to that you stop running from yourself. You're ready to dive into all of your problems. You're ready to uncover and rip the Band-Aid off of all of those areas in your life that you put the Band-Aid before. You're ready to fully face everything about yourself. When the true version of yourself is revealed to yourself, you will begin to see all of the ugly qualities that you possess. And no, honey, I'm not talking about whether somebody is physically attractive or not. I'm talking about the ugliness of your characteristics, your behaviors, how you express yourself, how you speak to others, and on top of that, how you speak to yourself. Here's the thing about it though, baby, you did not start off ugly. None of us start off ugly. The circumstances that we may have experienced as a child made us ugly. Bad perspectives given to you by an adult or maybe a badly influenced peer. That is what made you ugly. So what does that mean? That means you can heal from everything that was taught to you. You can always unlearn ways that were taught to you. And at that point, you can begin to replenish yourself with qualities that are going to finally carry you in that direction that you really want to travel. Just because you may possess ugly qualities now does not mean that it has to stay that way, because you are the one in control of making the changes. So let's go ahead and put some of that power to use and go ahead and recognize these red flags that have definitely been waving us down all this time. So today I have 7 red flags that we're going to go over, but number 1 red flag that you want to look for is self-sabotage. You are avoiding moving forward. Even when the greatest opportunities present themselves, you sabotage it because you want to avoid facing possibilities. See, that's what's crazy, is that it's not even limited to just the bad possibilities. You're limiting yourself in the good areas as well. You're afraid of a good thing happening to you because you don't know how to respond to it. Self-sabotage is your coping mechanism to deal with fear of change. You wouldn't dare face it, so your response is to make sure that every single aspect of your life is exactly the same. And then you shut down anything that can potentially change that routine for you, even if you have to resort to conflict or pushing people away for that matter. This hurts not only yourself, but it also hurts the people who are surrounding you, who love you and care about you. You have to be careful when it comes to self-sabotage, because a lot of the times, depending on what you're experiencing, that isolation feeling starts to creep in. So that feeling of you wanting to just go into a bubble and shut down and not be bothered and hide from the world, you'll start having that feeling, and that is definitely not healthy. That's not something that you want to do. You start feeling those feelings of disappointment. Maybe you're feeling a little bit ashamed. Feel like you're constantly dealing with conflict. There's sadness and a lack of happiness in your life. You start feeling all these feelings. Of course, like I said, it's going to be easier for a person to start to shut down and go into a little isolation bubble. If something like that happens, then you have to be careful about attempting to self-medicate. Those really heavy emotions and those negative feelings, it'll have you ready to take a sip from the bottle or use drugs in order to cope with the stress of it all. Normally, the scenario is we deal with external interference. But what's worse than external interference is an internal interference. It's literally you getting in your own way and sabotaging your own life. Let me remind you of something though. Self-sabotage is a learned behavior. It is something that developed because of an experience that you had. Self-sabotage is not hardwired. That wouldn't even make sense. If you want any chance of really becoming that fierce woman in your life, walking in your power, walking with confidence, you have to rid yourself of self-sabotage. Red flag number 2 is always looking to be in the spotlight. Desiring to always be seen and craving that attention is definitely a red flag that you're giving off broken little girl energy rather than giving off that fierce woman energy. You constantly want to be validated. You want somebody to always tell you that you look pretty. You want somebody to always tell you that you smell good. You want somebody to always compliment you on your house and how well your house is decorated. Why are you so in need of attention? This is the point where you want to ask yourself, what is broken inside of me that makes me feel inadequate unless somebody is giving me praise? But you want to know what's even crazier? There are many people who are like this, and they get that validation that they seek. They get all of the attention, but then at nighttime, they still go to bed crying because they still feel like it's not enough, or they feel like they're still missing something. Yearning for validation is a clear sign that you lacked being affirmed as a child from either your parent or your guardian. Which, no, this is no fault of yours, but the aftermath of it leaves you wanting to overstock in this area. You're trying to get all of this attention and all of this validation to, I guess, fill in what you did not receive when you were a child, but to also give you what you need at this point in your life. When I was a kid, my mom gave me praise when praise was due, and it was not overly done. If I did a good job, she told me I did a good job, but it wasn't with a rainfall of balloons and treats and gifts or nothing like that. She told me, good job, and honestly, that was enough for me. But that's not everybody's upbringing. There's another person over here who didn't have that upbringing. So they desperately wanted to hear those things from their parents or their guardian as a child, and they never got that. So of course, it's going to leave them growing up and desiring to be validated in any area that they can get it. You are all grown up now, which means that you don't have to wait or beg, for that matter, for anybody to validate you. You can validate yourself. Tell yourself you look pretty. Tell yourself you smell good. Tell yourself you're the smartest person in the room, even if you don't believe it. Tell yourself you are. Once you rid yourself of seeking that spotlight and seeking that validation, I promise you that is when you really realize that you are in no competition with anybody else. Red flag number 3 that you want to look for if you need to heal from being a broken little girl is jealousy. If you harbor any kind of jealousy in your heart, you clearly need to do some healing. How can you really become that woman who really embodies that attitude of determination? You have all this confidence, resilience, and charm if you're over here side-eyeing the next woman because you feel like she's making bigger and better boss moves than you are. You have all of these comments about this woman over here, but at the end of the day, you're the one with the problem. It's you thinking that she's doing better than you. You're jealous because of your own thoughts. This ties into being that broken little girl because honestly, it starts when we're kids. I know for me, when I was a kid, I was jealous of other little girls. I was jealous because they were lighter complected than I was. Some of them lived in bigger houses than what me and my family lived in. Some of them had cell phones before I did. I was jealous because some of them had boyfriends and nobody wanted to be my boyfriend. So I'm giving you that example because what I want you to understand is that this is little jealousy, little things that start off when we're kids, but the problem is we never check it along the way. So now this small amount of jealousy is turning into a huge freaking problem for you when you turn into an adult. No lie, I honestly can say I probably just got over jealousy, like really overcame jealousy within the last 6 months. I won't spend too much time because I've already kind of talked about it, but if you've noticed on some of my other videos, I kept talking about how I had to put time restraints on my social media usage. I downloaded the Screen Time Zen, I think it's what it's called, app to control the amount of time that I was getting on social media. A lot of that was because I had some issues with jealousy, showing up every day and not feeling like I was where I wanted to be. Other people exceeding my content, even though I felt like their content wasn't as good as mine. It didn't have as best quality as mine did. So all of that stemmed from me experiencing jealousy, and I wanted to rid myself of that once and for all. That way, when I came back to doing short form content, especially, I know that I am doing it solely for me, that I'm on my own time, that I enjoy what I do, and I also enjoy what other people do, but there's no need to feel jealousy behind it. Red flag number 4 is if you have a fear of vulnerability. You should never fear exposing who you are and the experiences that you've gone through, because I say this a lot and I truly believe it. Your situation and telling your story could be the very thing that just one other person needs to hear. For whatever reason, they resonate with you, and your story could literally help them change their lives. A few days ago, I don't know if you guys caught the story or not, but this was just within like the last week or two, the new Miss Kansas winner was announced. Well, I guess apparently during her interview before she was actually crowned, she mentioned something about her abuser being in the audience. And even after she stated that her abuser was in the audience, she basically said, I am saying this and I'm up here because I'm going to take my power back, and I am not going to allow this person to interrupt my peace. It doesn't matter whether she was physically abused, emotionally abused, mentally abused. At the end of the day, she suffered abuse. Think about all the women who were tuned into that pageant, who are at home suffering silently. Think about the bravery that she just passed along to each of those women. She shared something that has potentially affected her health. She shared something that has probably definitely kept her up at night, and talked about a dreadful experience in her life. However, her story and her standing in her power gave all of these women across the world the courage to stand up and take their power back. She had to get over the fear of vulnerability to really allow herself to be seen in that light. That wound could have easily taken over her life, but she did not allow it, and you cannot allow it either. Everything about what she did, everything about what she said, it screams fierceness. So if you want to be that woman that has that same fierce attitude, you have to be willing to be exposed. Now, I'm not saying that you have to completely uncover every single detail about your life. No, but you have to be willing to share those experiences, because guess what? Like I said, your story, your situation could be the very thing that helps transform another person's life. Face those traumatic events and take your power back, because when you do allow yourself to be fully vulnerable, there is not a comment or anything that somebody can make that would break you. Number 5 red flag is if you are a control freak. Everything in life is change, and if you cannot become a flexible person, you will always find yourself angry at the world, irritated, annoyed, stressed out, and so forth, so on. Some of this could be stemming from when you were a child. Maybe you received conditional approvals or conditional love as a kid, but that doesn't mean that you have to operate in that same light or that same manner as an adult. That's one of the benefits of being an adult. You can set your own standards and live your life your way. Now, I get it to some degree. I understand why a kid who did receive conditional love or conditional approvals in their youth, I get why they would want to grow up and repeat that cycle all over again. As kids, we have no power. We're told what to do, and we better do it without asking questions. If we do talk back or we talk out of turn or anything like that, we get in trouble. So you have no power. So again, that is probably the only reason that I would understand why somebody who experienced that as a child would want to grow up and do that same thing all over again, because now they feel like they're in control or they have that power. But to intentionally want to dominate over somebody else or manipulate them into doing what you want them to do or belittling them until you've stripped them of their confidence, clearly that shows that you are not the healthiest version of yourself. That is a clear indicator that you need some serious healing from those childhood traumas that you may have experienced. That type of behavior, that is a golden ticket to living a life alone. Because honestly, who would really want to deal with a person who's inflicting pain? Again, we're looking to be fierce women, and being a fierce woman, you have to know that you're not always going to be in control. Not only do you have to be flexible, but you also have to be open to receiving constructive criticism. Ooh, my hand is itching. I think some money is coming my way. I digress, but a person who is always looking to be in control and they dismiss that constructive criticism, that is a person who can never grow in life. If you want to continue to be held back, honey, it is your life. You do whatever you want to do. But for me, I'd rather heal from those controlling issues. I'd rather heal from those controlling behaviors and reinvent myself so that I can reflect being in control when I need to be, but also taking orders whenever I need to take orders. Number 6 red flag that you need to heal from being that broken little girl so that you can be that fierce woman that you want to be is trust issues. Now, clearly, I am not telling you to just be willing to give your trust 100% to everybody in the world. That is not what I am saying. But something can be said about the person who is unwilling to trust at all. The projecting behaviors, they have to be wiped clean, okay? You cannot make every single person pay for the past encounters in your life. That is absolute broken behavior. I think we could probably all agree that the majority area where trust issues lie or where they stem from are from relationship traumas. You're still harboring those feelings of abandonment. You're still holding on to those feelings of not feeling like you were protected enough. Feelings of betrayal, feelings of that conditional love that I talked about on the last red flag. This stuff is eating you alive from the inside out. I'm not gonna lie to you, healing in this area, it's gonna take some time, but I really encourage you to just go ahead and face it head on. Face it so that you can finally release yourself of all of that trauma. You need to go ahead and face your childhood self so that you can face yourself and let your childhood self know that you're okay and that you made it out. You also want to get past these trust issues because in a professional setting, yes, it can hinder your growth, but it can really mess with your finances. It's one thing to project onto your family and friends, but it's another thing to project on the person that signs your checks. You definitely don't want to be labeled as the standoffish person in your office, and quite honestly, employers are not going to deal with that for too long. And the last red flag that I have for you today is number 7, which is avoiding the wounds. If you're avoiding it, that means that it has too much power over you. Intentionally avoiding the emotional pain is definitely a red flag that you have a lot of unresolved issues in your life. When issues are left unresolved, it truly keeps us locked in the past, and we will never reach that higher version of ourselves. You know, I get it. Some of us have been dealt a terrible, terrible hand in life, and some of our past are nothing but pure freaking darkness. For me personally, I felt like I dealt with normal stuff. Divorced parents, 2 different homes, dad worked like 2-3 jobs, so he wasn't there physically, but he was at least always a phone call away. Single mom household, that kind of dynamic. There are people who have experienced abandonment, people whose parents have been murdered, people who have suffered from physical, mental, or emotional abuse, people who had to go through foster care or had to live in unlivable conditions. I mean, that is some heavy stuff, you guys. That's some heavy stuff to experience as a child. So I completely understand why a person would be apprehensive to dredging up the past, because if they had a past like that, who would want to face it? But you have to. It is the only way. It literally is the only way that you are going to be liberated in your life. I really hope that these red flags help you just to start reflecting in your life. I want to be the best woman that I can be. I want to be the best woman as a wife, as a mother, as a career woman, as a business owner. I want to be the best version, the highest version of myself. But the only way that we can really achieve that is if we heal from some of these things that are holding us back. And if we start looking at some of the areas, they might be small. You might not have to face all of this emotional baggage or childhood traumas, but you might have to deal with self-sabotage, envy, jealousy, that kind of stuff. So it's good to just take a full audit of your life and recognize the areas that you are struggling with. And once you can really heal from those areas, you can progress and you can have all of the growth that you're really looking for in your life. So again, that brings us to the end. Comment down below. Tell me what you think about this video. Tell me if there are other red flags that you thought of that might not have been listed in today's video. Drop them below. That brings us to the end. That is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. I don't know. We might have to come back in this little section of my room depending on how this lighting turns out. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, my love.